I'm Kat.
And I'm Hayley.
And this is Night Classy.
A tipsy night class teaching the oddities and curiosities you never learned in school.
What are you teaching on this learning journey, Hayley?
I will be teaching us about a social experiment that happened in more modern history. What are you teaching us?
I'm going to tell you about one of the wilder organizations that came out of the satanic panic.
Ooh.
And the acronym is B.A.D.D.
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 Oh! B.A.D. bad to the bone.
That's right.
I don't even know
double diggle ditties.
Oh,
Tiggle
okay.
ditties.
It went in a direction that I was not expecting.
Okay,
They're
that's not what you
pro-Satan.
think of when you say double D. What do you think of?
I don't know what I was thinking of. Dungeons and Dragons, for one.
Perhaps.
That's been top of mind.
I did say you might already know my lesson.
I do know Dungeons and Dragons.
You
Not
do?
that well. I've played it like 5 times.
5 times is a lot.
And I saw the movie, so...
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
a apropos lesson, very on trend right now. We both played Dungeons and Dragons. If you want to hear us play Dungeons and Dragons, you can go to Patreon because the recording is there.
We need to do that again. Dungeons and Dragons did come out of the Satanic Panic.
It came out right before the Satanic Panic.
Oh, Tommy told me different 2 days ago.
Well, Tommy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Wow,
It
Tommy.
came out in 1974 and the Satanic Panic was like the 1980s.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I literally just spent all day researching
I thought
this.
it was late 70s.
Okay, yeah, maybe started in the late Dungeons and Dragons.
No, the Satanic Panic. I thought it was more of a late 70s thing.
Late 70s into the 80s. Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're learning
Yeah,
things.
Already. Look at us.
Again, things
learning
we don't
things
learn
so
in school.
fast. We learned things yesterday. We went to a tarot class and I was thinking about this and I was like, I'm spending literally every single day this week with Hayley.
Yeah. This entire week. And then we just made an additional plan on Saturday.
Oh my God. You're going to steal my Sunday now too. Listen, you guys. This is disgusting. Monday, tarot. Tuesday, today, recording. Wednesday, we're watching Love is Blind. Thursday, trivia hosting. Friday, Patreon cocktail hour. Saturday, we are getting tarot cards read and getting pedicures.
Sunday?
Question
Who
mark.
knows?
You want to go to
options are
Target?
endless. Yes,
Okay,
I do
let's
want to
do
do that.
that.
And you say it's ridiculous, like it's such a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. I just, I feel
lot
like
of
we
time.
have an abnormal friendship where we're with each other every day.
I know,
and
it's
yet
a
we're
lot.
not roommates anymore.
We started a business together.
Oh yeah, a business.
Business. I told Tommy that you were jealous because you feel like you don't know him as well as I know Alec and you, and he just laughed. He's like, just tell her to read a book and she'll know everything she needs to know about me.
What?
Read one of the books that he reads, one of those fantasy
Yeah,
books.
I'm not gonna do that. But
Well, there
go
you
off.
go. Oh my God, that tarot class, did you debrief Alec?
No, I didn't. All I told him were the positives, which it was like fun. Like it was spooky. We sat up in a spooky attic and it was cozy and we drank wine and talked about tarot. But there were some very interesting characters there. I don't want... It was kind of like an episode of Parks and Rec at like a town hall meeting where like all the wackos come out, but in an endearing way.
Yes, it was so pleasant and fun. I just have to talk about this specific moment though. Okay, we start this workshop and she's talking about dispelling your cards, getting rid of them or cleaning them, and she asked if anyone has had similar experiences, and this suburban middle-aged looking mom raises her hand and she's like, well, I didn't have tarot cards, like I'm just now learning about this, but one time I did buy a Ouija board, or is it a Ouija?
A Ouija board.
A Ouija board at Goodwill, and then my husband started going crazy and I was shocked. I had to hold back my laughter. Like, why did you buy that from Goodwill?
Oh, I definitely would have bought one from Goodwill. But the question was, does anyone know about like expelling tarot cards or whatever? And then she just like, her whole story was that she bought a Ouija board and then got scared and got rid of it. And that was the whole story. And everyone in this class was either like a goth witch or a suburban mom that looked really uncomfortable. It was so funny.
What were we?
You're right in the middle
We're the
of those
goth
two.
witches.
Goth mom looking.
That's true. We are kind of in the
Mid-20.
middle. I hate to admit it, but I'm probably closer to the suburban mom side of the spectrum.
Yeah,
just in looks alone.
It was so fun though. We already booked the next workshop for
Hell
2 weeks from now.
We got there and she's like, okay, we're signing up for next week already. Like, I just want this to be just this group in this room. Don't invite anyone else. Like, we're going to be here every week. I thought this was just a one-off. And then I felt peer pressured to sign up for another week, which I'm glad I did because it was fun. I'm happy to do it again.
Yes.
But now this is a commitment.
It is. We're in it now. Now she's going to know our names. And I like it. I like that shop a lot. I thought this was going to be, like you said, a one-off thing, just learning the basics of tarot. We're in it now.
Yeah, no, we just learned what the number 5 meant. That's all we learned.
Did the 4s.
Oh, see, I didn't learn anything.
We did the 4s and the Fool, and I told Tommy that the Fool is a good card. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
An adventurous, kind of naive, happy-go-lucky type card.
Yeah.
Kind of scared to get my tarot read though.
I know, because half the cards are bad. I didn't realize how bad some of them were. Now I'm embarrassed to get my tarot read because she'll just know all these bad things about
What
me.
are you gonna ask her to read you on?
I don't know. Maybe a read on Night Classy.
That's what I was thinking too.
Because I feel like I'm at a pretty comfortable place in my life where there's not really any thing to wonder about. Mm-hmm. Like, I know what I'm doing in my job. I know what I'm doing in love. Like, I don't know what else there is. I guess I could get a reading on my pets. That might be fun.
Yeah, ask them when you're gonna get the next animal.
Oh,
ask her about crickets in the house.
I just want her opinion. She did tell us she also has a taxidermy business where she stuffs people's pets. So I said, when Duke dies, I'm getting him stuffed and he's going to be my couch.
You could have him like laying down, kind of like how cats are loafed, and put like a glass like slab on him, make him
a
table.
That's a good, or I could put him upside down with his legs sticking in the air and balance the glass on his hooves.
Yeah, you could open up a bar just all based around Duke as the bar.
I could open up a bar based on all my dead taxidermy pets because I'm getting them all stuffed when they die.
I asked Tommy about it and he's so in. He's like so enthusiastic about getting them stuffed. Yeah.
I joke about it, but I think in real life I'd be sad to see them stuffed.
I was shocked that Tommy was so excited because I just thought it was kind of a funny thing. And he's like, well, I always wanted to see my cat. Like when I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of pictures of this cat, and then it died and I didn't have any pictures, and I've like kind of forgotten what it looks like.
That's fair.
And I'm like, okay.
But you guys do have a lot of pictures of Safety. We have
so many pictures. Yeah. And he's like, well, that cat didn't pose, but Safety definitely poses for the camera. I don't know about Girly so much, but Safety does. Okay.
Well, maybe you've converted me. Alec, can we get our pets stuffed? Hopefully not for a very long time.
It would make me sad.
Yeah. I don't know if I could. Maybe we get them stuffed and put them in a closet until we've healed emotionally.
That just... okay, if that works for you, just keep them in the freezer. Maybe you don't even get them stuffed until you're ready.
We did that when I was a kid. My goldfish died, and I wanted to bury him, but we didn't have time that day, so we put him in the freezer and then forgot about him. And then when we were moving away from that house, like 5 years later, we're like, what's this? And it was like a freezer burned giant ass goldfish. He was big. He was like just a goldfish in a bag. I saw his like eye bulging out against the bag, and that really terrified me.
It was like that Tweety bird, that frostburn Tweety bird popsicle that we pulled up 2 episodes ago.
Was that on Extra Credit?
I think so.
List
Bitch. That's our Patreon show. If you guys are unaware, we have a ton of extra content over there.
Yes, please go to our Patreon. And like, we are also doing cocktail hour this Friday coming right up.
That is the 7th of April.
7 p.m. Central. We're going to get on Zoom with you guys. Our Patreons, the Zoom link will be posted, and we're just going to hang out and have fun. If that's something interesting to you, please join Patreon. Like, it really does support the show. We just hired a girl named Maxine. Welcome, Maxine.
Welcome.
She's going to be helping us with just some of the editing and technical side because like we all have full-time jobs and we love doing it, but it's really overwhelming sometimes. So in order to keep churning out the content, we need some support. So please help us on Patreon. And if you're already helping us on Patreon, you're the real MVP. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we do that cocktail hour every Friday. We'll see you guys at
Every first Friday.
Every first Friday. I do it every Friday.
She's having her own cocktail hour. What if you were having secret Zoom Patreons?
Would that make you
without
jealous?
Me? That would make me. Are you kidding? That would be the end of the pod. I would be so mad at you.
So crazy.
Insane.
You just have your own little fan club, and you guys leave me out of it. I would
That'd be
freak
awful.
out.
This podcast would never have even happened without you. So
Oh yeah, I'm the one who forced everyone
You're the
to
catalyst.
do it. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Also join our Facebook page. It's linked in our link tree.
So fun. So many things to do.
We're up to 89 members. Let's get to 100.
Right now.
Right now, immediately.
Get back on Facebook. Bring it back. Remember your password because it's time.
Yes. Try to remember your password. I think we should all make our profile pictures whatever our first profile picture was on Facebook.
Dang, I think I deleted. I went back and like washed my social media.
I did too, but I think I still have a profile picture on there like from like 2015. I could maybe do that one.
I just downloaded probably 50,000 pictures from my childhood throughout high school from my old computer to a hard drive. So I have a lot of options.
You should go through that and pick the one you think you would have picked.
Ooh, for when I had my first Facebook page.
Yeah, what, like 14
oh my
years
gosh,
old?
it was probably just a picture of Twilight, the hand with the with the apple. That's probably what it was.
Facetune had like just come out, and I would Facetune the shit out of my pics. I would whiten my teeth with like the little whitening pen,
just unnaturally
like
white,
blue, and it was impossible to get it like just on your teeth, so like my lips would also be blue.
Instead of having wine mouth, you had white
mouth.
It
was a look.
It was a look. Cute.
It was not cute.
Bring it back.
I don't have anything else.
Me either. Let's do this thing.
We breathalyzed and I blew a oh, we didn't say what we're drinking.
Oh my god.
Oh my
this
god.
New setup.
We can't forget.
What the heck? I'm drinking moldy beer.
Yeah,
Literally.
There's mold all over the lids of those beers.
Unfortunately, I'm gonna blame it on Kroger and not the company.
Sometimes that happens. Like, it's one of those 6-packs of beer where there's a full like plastic cap over the can that holds them all together. I feel like that's happened to me multiple times where there's mold under that.
Yeah. So thankfully Alec spotted it only after I had drank like half my can. He was like, "Do you think this is mold?" It's clearly mold. Out of the Yazoo Hefeweizen. It's a really cute. It looks like it's like Eve with a little snake.
A little snake. She looks very happy.
Snake. Yeah, because she got what she wanted, which was the snake.
She was making her own decisions.
What are you drinking?
I have a dark cherry Angry Orchard hardcore. It says hardcore because
Demon core
because it's 8% alcohol
by
volume. So
girl.
It is it's okay. I would give it like a 6.5 out of 10. The taste, it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's nothing like that I would buy again.
Nothing to rave about. What we need to bring back are those Bud Light seltzers. Remember those?
The gross eggnog one?
No, the good ones that we were like, oh, we should like just see what this looks like. I think I got it in 2020 because it was all Walgreens had. They didn't have any White Claws. I remember them being good, I think.
I don't remember that, but I believe you. What we should get are those hard Mountain Dews.
Yeah, we should.
I feel like if we're drinking Bud Light seltzer, that's the next logical step.
We're on a path now.
Yeah.
We'll see you all in the afterlife.
Anyway, I blew a .018.
And I blew a .010 on our breathalyzer for anyone who's new. Yes. We haven't done that the last couple episodes.
Because we normally like haven't been drinking before we record, but today...
Not today.
Today I needed it. The AC is out in my classroom and multiple other things happened at work today that I'm not going to get into, but I had a wild day.
It was dramatic.
It's a wild time. Just another day in education. You know, it is what it is. Anyway, trigger warning for suicide. Here we go. Ohio boy James Dallas Egbert III was a child prodigy. At just 16 years old, he enrolled at Michigan State University as a computer science major. Then on August 15th, 1979, shortly into his college career, Egbert disappeared. In his place was a suicide note. The note listed Egbert's reasons for wanting to end his own life. These included pressure in academics, drug use, and struggling over his sexual identity. Panicked and obviously wanting to find their son, the Egberts hired a private investigator named William Deere. So William Deere went to Egbert's room. I believe he was in a dorm. Maybe he was in an apartment. I'm not sure. And in there, he found a bulletin board with a bunch of push pins in it. And it looked like the push pins were in some kind of pattern, like they were intentionally pushed into the board.
Yeah. It was like one of those S's that everyone drew on their notebook.
Unfortunately not. That would have been better than what it was. It was pins that looked like they were arranged in the shape of campus buildings and the nearby power plant. Because of the inclusion of this power plant, Deere believed that Egbert may have gone down into the steam tunnels under the school. Because I believe that the power plant maybe, I don't really know. I was a little bit confused about this part. Maybe the power plant is supplying energy to the university and there's like steam tunnels underground.
It's just going for a little spa trip.
Yeah.
Steam tunnels.
A sauna, if you will. So he got permission to search the steam tunnels. And sure enough, he did find evidence that Egbert had been there. But he couldn't find Egbert.
What was the evidence?
It didn't say. It did say evidence that he was trying to take his own life. And it later came out that he did try to take his own life with sleeping pills. So maybe he found the pill bottle, possibly with his name on it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what he found, but whatever he found, he knew that he had definitely been there. And
some thumbtacks.
Some thumbtacks, like a trail of breadcrumbs. Yeah. Deere wondered why Egbert had gone down into the tunnels in the first place. And he speculated wildly straight to the press. He told them his theories.
Like you do. That is such a private investigator move.
Yeah. I mean, you can just do whatever the fuck you want.
There are no rules.
No. Are there any kind of standards that private investigators are held to?
The only private investigator I can name is Dog the Bounty Hunter.
That's a great class of people to belong to. I now too aspire to be a private investigator. Egbert was an avid player of a newish game at the time called Dungeons and Dragons. Deere's theory was that Egbert went down in the tunnels to act out the game. The game is usually played around the table, but Deere thought that maybe he was LARPing, like live action, acting out the game. And then he took it even further, saying that maybe Egbert was delusional and thought that he was his Dungeons and Dragons character when he went down into the tunnels. Maybe he was in like that kind of state and that's why he like wandered away and got lost. Everything was completely made up. Like, this is not evidence-based. The only quote-unquote evidence he has is that this kid liked to play Dungeons and Dragons and is now missing.
William Deere is like, if I just think of all the possible solutions, surely one of them is bound to fit.
Except he thought of one solution.
And that was it.
And it made no sense. I do kind of see what he was doing if he was trying to bring attention to the case, because I think the police kind of weren't being super helpful. They're like, this is a college kid, like college kids do college kid things, like I'm sure he'll show up. Typical. And then that's why the family hired a private investigator, because it didn't feel like the police were doing anything. So maybe this is a ploy to get media coverage, because that definitely worked. The press loved this idea that Dungeons and Dragons was somehow to blame for this kid's disappearance. Thankfully, Egbert was eventually found safe. He had attempted to take his own life before he went down and hid in New Orleans. And he had had some help getting down to New Orleans by a friend, possibly more than a friend, though that was never explicitly stated. That's kind of the vibe I got. But he was found safe. And when interviewed, he credited academic pressure and drug use for his suicide attempts and claimed that the game played no part in anything. They're like, did you do it because of Dungeons and Dragons? And he's like, what? What are you talking about? Sadly, about a year later, Egbert did die by suicide, and his parents attributed this to social and academic pressure. Egbert was a child prodigy. He went to college at 16. None of that could have been easy.
Yeah, that's way too young.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I agree.
Take a gap year or two.
Right.
Or 3.
Go to Paris. Maybe not all by yourself at 16, but maybe. I don't know. I don't know what you do.
Get a job. Go work at Target.
Go work at take a couple years and work at Target. Just smell the soft pretzels, drink an icy.
Costco could be a good
Look
option
at bikinis.
too. Yes.
Smell some candles.
Starbucks might be good as well. Free coffee.
That would be good.
I think I'd rather work at Target though.
I would want to work. My brother works at Target.
Does he?
Yeah. He's
out.
he works in, what do they call it? Asset no. It was something where he's like supposed to watch the cameras for shoplifters.
Yeah.
It has a fancy name that I'm blanking on.
Asset protection, right? Or theft?
No, theft prevention.
Theft prevention,
I
yeah.
think. Yeah,
when
that's what he
I had
does.
my window busted out of my car, I just, left it. It wasn't taped up or anything because I had to see out of it to be able to drive. And I was at Target, and when I got back to my car after shopping, these guys were around my car, and they're like, "Is this your car, ma'am?" I'm like, yeah, what? And it was just normal to me at that point.
Yeah.
It had been broken for like a week.
What are you talking about?
They're like,
my
"Did
car
this
is
happen?"
perfectly fine.
Yeah, this is normal. Looks like every other car in Memphis.
I still have like the duct tape residue all around my window that was smashed out, and
Before
it's a thing.
car was totaled, it also had the duct tape residue.
My car is silver. It blends right in. It's fine. Someone came up to me the other day. They're like, "Did you know that like something called what is it called? Gugon exists?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know about Gugon. This is a choice at this point. I am choosing to leave it like this."
Listen, I'm way too busy. I have tarot workshops. I have Love is Blind. I'm getting pedicures. There's no time for Gugon.
We have a rich life.
We do.
Let's see. So yeah, his parents are like, it was this academic pressure. They did not believe that Dungeons and Dragons had any part of it. But regardless, due to all this press coverage, most of the public, or at least the ones who weren't paying super attention to this case, like those who saw like a headline now and then, thought Dungeons and Dragons was at fault. James Egbert's case set a long-lasting precedent that D&D is evil, maybe even demonic.
Oh, it is. I can confirm. I've been feeling extra spicy after that first taste of D&D.
It was the gateway to our tarot classes. If you don't know, Dungeons and Dragons is an open-ended role-playing game. It was invented by designers Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, Dave Arneson, I think. And it was released in 1974. Each player creates their own character and with a team of other players sits around a table and acts out a campaign in a fantasy setting. Each game is facilitated by a dungeon master who acts as both a storyteller and a referee. The Dungeon Master will describe non-player characters, the outcomes of battles, players' decisions, magical items, treasures, and landmarks they encounter. You guys get the point. It's basically like you're just kind of like having a conversation about what you're doing as your fantasy character, and the Dungeon Master moves things along.
You saying having a conversation about what you're doing just made me think about that episode in The Office where they're recording the meeting, and Andy, after Jim like escalates him being like, "Oh, what are you doing, Dwight? You're taking off your pants. Let the record show." And then Andy's like, "I'm cutting off Phyllis's head with a chainsaw." Ring, ding, 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 ding. That's what I felt like playing D&D for the first time.
That's exactly what it feels like. You really do have to suspend your disbelief.
Yeah, everyone's like, okay. I don't know. You have to be very creative because there are no limits. They ask you, what do you want to do? And it's open-ended.
Yeah, there's no limits and also no visuals. Like there's nothing to rely on except your own imagination, which is a lot of pressure.
It is.
Especially when you're playing with people who know what they're doing and people who are funny and creative. It's like you get imposter syndrome. At least
I know.
that's how I feel.
I did too. I was like, I'm gonna drink some water.
I'm gonna drink some wine so I can do it. Anyway, the only things you need to play the game, like we said, there's not a lot of visuals. You just need a rule book, character sheets, and a polyhedral dice. This open-ended structure and minimalist nature of the game made it really accessible and really popular. All you needed to play basically were a few friends. Hopefully one of them had a rule book. The game reached mainstream popularity in the 1980s, and by 2004, an estimated 20 million people had played the game. Now we know that 1980s is also satanic panic time. They kind of came up together. Dungeons and Dragons had characters like the wizard and the warlock, which made it an easy target of the religious right, who argued that the game was corrupting America's youth and turning them towards devil worship.
Good.
Right.
They should be.
It's better than the alternative.
The best way to go.
After the James Egbert disappearance, novelist Rona Jaffe wrote a fictional book inspired by the events. It was called Mazes and Monsters, and it was about a group of college students and RPG players who found themselves playing their game in nearby caverns. One of the players is suffering from mental illness and begins to believe he is his character. Chaos ensues. The book was soon adapted into a film starring Tom Hanks in 1982. And just like the book, the moral of the film is that role-playing games are dangerous.
Oh, man. You don't even want to know how many hours this weekend I played Sims.
I do want to know how many hours.
I'm in trouble. I got a badge. It was like, you've been playing Sims for 12 hours. Straight? Not quite straight, but okay. I mean, almost.
I want to play Sims. I've been feeling the video game itch lately, but I just haven't found the motivation to pull out my Switch. I think it's dead.
Oh my gosh. You can come over and play Sims. I got an expansion pack. You can be a vampire now in my game.
Ooh, we can do the thing we always did in middle school where we name the Sims after people we know and fuck them up.
Yeah. Put them in the pool, go for a swim, take the ladder out.
Make them have sex.
Make them have sex. Oh,
woohoo. The danger that seemed like, at least from this media, that could come out of role-playing games is hallucinations, delusions, and danger.
Confirmed. That is my reality.
It's so funny because it's like there are kids who sit around a table and play Dungeons and Dragons in the safety of their own home, and there are kids that get behind the wheel at night and race their friends in their cars and go out drinking. It's like, what do you think is more dangerous? Seriously.
Yeah.
It's so, I know we all understand this, but it's so dumb.
The thing that has been going on, and those quote unquote cool parents who let their kids drink or enable them to do that and make maybe some questionable decisions.
Right. But it's kids are going to hang out with their friends. Would you rather them play a game? Or would you rather them, even just driving around, even if they're not drunk? Driving cars is so dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
It's not, it's really dumb. All of this danger was projected onto D&D. Irving Lee Poling II, nicknamed Blink, was a 17-year-old gifted student at Patrick Henry High School in 1982. He was described by classmates as a little socially awkward, a little troubled, but one thing he really liked to do was play Dungeons and Dragons. His high school had a Dungeons and Dragons club, which was started by a teacher who acted as their dungeon master. And that is just so cute to me. That's Dead Poet Society, but make it goth and nerdy. I love it.
Yeah, that's the type of teacher I aspire to be.
I have a coding club at school, but I know jack shit about coding, so I just
you can't really lead them in that way.
What I do is I just offer my room as a space for the kids who enjoy coding to code. They're really good at
You're
it.
You're freaking landlord.
They'll ask me for help, and I just have to pretend to be trying to help. I don't know.
Did you turn it off and turn it on again?
At first I was really trying, but now they're so good at it that they've surpassed my own abilities.
Why don't you learn how to do it?
Because it's boring. I don't want to. No, I do try sometimes, but I don't know.
Have them teach you. They would like that.
Yeah, sometimes they do. But I don't know. I'm not interested. I need a club that I'm actually interested in.
Teach an old dog new tricks.
I got voluntold to do the coding club, and I do enjoy it. The kids are fun, but yeah, I know nothing about coding.
It's different than being the D&D leader.
Yeah, maybe I'll start a D&D club, but no, I won't. I'll need to pick something else. I thought about starting
a horse club.
I thought about starting a podcasting club, and I was going to do it. But then another teacher did it. And I always look at him when he's doing his podcasting club. I'm like, if you only knew.
You should tell him.
It's like that meme that's like, no, none of them know I'm a podcaster.
Yeah, what the fuck? How have you not? That would have been my thing. I would have been like, do you want any help? Because, you know, I do have, you know.
But I feel like that's cringy. Like, I feel like it's not something to brag about.
I know it's something cringy, but I wouldn't be able to hold myself back. Because, I mean, we have accomplished a lot. Not many podcasts survive 3 years. Yeah. And we've been so consistent.
Hair flip. Did you know I have a podcast that is a fun hobby, basically.
It is a very fun hobby.
Yeah. No, I haven't told him. But also, like, I can't go in there and talk to the kids about podcasting because I don't talk about my podcast at school because it's not a school appropriate podcast, and I don't want anyone to tell me to stop doing it.
Yeah. So that's fair.
There's that too.
You should go listen in and see what he's telling them.
I know. I just like crouch outside the door.
I'll be like, so do you know about Libsyn? Oh, you're doing Podbean.
Oh, interesting. Oh, Stitcher.
Just kidding, Stitcher, if you want to work with us.
So together, this club would meet after school and play the game. But then tragically on June 9th, 1982, Blink died by suicide, leaving behind a note that supposedly had several cryptic references to the game. And it makes sense that he would include the game in his final letter because it was a big part of his life.
Yeah.
He probably wanted his friends from the podcasting club, the Dungeons and Dragons club to maybe like get the message. I don't know, but the cops saw that and thought, double worship. So these references to Dungeons and Dragons coupled with a rumor, I'm not sure where the rumor came from, but that the club members had reportedly placed a curse on Blink earlier that day. I don't know if that happened while they were playing Dungeons and Dragons or if it was just like not real at all.
It's so funny to hear law enforcement officers be like, they're delusional and they think that they're their player because they're playing Dungeons and Dragons. Right. And then for them to be like, well, maybe it was a curse put on them during Dungeons and Dragons.
The curse thing is just so dumb. I mean, this whole, like all of this thinking Dungeons and Dragons had anything to do with it is so, that's like if someone died and they had a game of Monopoly that they hadn't finished yet. It's like, oh, they killed themselves because of Monopoly.
They went into debt and they couldn't get out.
Yeah, exactly. The stress of being in debt or not having Parks Place like drove them over the edge.
Like, your husband fell from a ladder? Was he playing Chutes and Ladders earlier in the day?
He got bit by a snake. He thought you could slide down a snake because he was playing Chutes and Ladders. Yeah.
You decided to go back to school? Were you playing Life and just like landed on that tile? You decided to go into
You had 25 babies and put them all in a pool and then took the ladder out of a pool. Were you playing Sims?
Oh my God. What is another game?
I think we listed all of them.
I think we got the main ones.
That's it.
Ma'am, do you have hungry hippos in the house?
So all of these things, I didn't even hear what you said. All I heard was hungry hippos.
I was imagining a cop asking, like, do you have hungry hippos in the house? But I kind of mumbled it with like Elvis and I said, hungry hippos in the house.
hungry hippos?
Yeah, I heard that and I was like, I'm sold.
It's hilarious. Moving on. All of these things led investigators and Blink's parents to believe that the game was to blame for his too soon death.
It's the blame of the game.
It's the blamed game.
Blame the game.
Okay.
You never played that game?
No, what are you talking about?
You have to, all your class sits in a circle and you go name, game, name a name, and then you say your name, and then the person next to you does that, and they say your name and then their name, and it just keeps going around. You have to say everyone's name in order.
You know what they did to us? It was similar in my sorority. One of the first nights in the house, they quote unquote hazed us by making us all get on the top bunks on the sleeping porch, which is a room full of bunk beds, and they forced us all to learn each other's names, and if we couldn't say everyone's name, they would scream at us.
That sounds effective and scary.
It worked.
Yeah. Do you remember all their names, you feel? Could you say
I know
now?
all their names. I mean, I lived with them for several years.
Oh, I didn't know if you got into that sorority or not.
No, they don't do that until you're in it.
Oh.
Yeah. But if anyone from I don't want to get anyone in trouble. I'm lying. Okay, moving on. So
I'm lying, moving on.
On a tight leash, I see.
What did you sign?
No, I didn't sign anything. I know I wouldn't get in trouble, but I don't know.
I'm lying.
They didn't really
haze
us. They didn't. Anyway, Blank's room was full of D&D paraphernalia, and he obviously loved the game, but there was no evidence that it had any influence on his death. Despite this lack of evidence, Blank's parents filed a $1 million lawsuit against the school principal for allowing the game to be played, quote, as an organized school activity. Because remember, they had that club.
Oh my God, I would be shitting my pants if I were that school principal.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be like, how do you fight this? They're being delusional.
Right. 100%.
You can't argue with someone who's not using, whose logic is made up in their own mind.
Yeah, you can't. Luckily, the lawsuit was dismissed, but the Poling family, specifically Patricia Poling, who is Blank's mother, really felt like I think she sincerely believed that the game was at fault, and we're definitely going to get into her and what happens next. And before we do, yes, she is mistaken. Yes, it's an overreaction, but I mean, her teenage son died by suicide. I can't imagine the grief she was going through, and probably grasping at anything to rationalize and make sense of it. So I don't want to put any blame on her or make light of the situation, but she sincerely felt like she had to protect other children from falling victim to Dungeons and Dragons. Mm-hmm. This game, she now believed that it influenced children to die by suicide. That's what she thought.
That would be so scary to believe that.
Yeah, it really would. It would.
And that's awful. I can't imagine the pain. I don't want it to seem like I was making light of that. No,
I'm not saying you were. I just it is what happens next. It is a little bit funny if you don't empathize,
ground yourself,
if you don't ground yourself in the reality of how awful this is, because what she did was she founded the Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons organization, which is the acronym B.A.D.D. And it's just clearly one of those scenarios where she came up with the acronym before and she came up with the name.
Yeah.
Because Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons just sounds so stupid. It sounds like a Simpsons episode. And this organization called for regulation of the game D&D.
And I hate it too when acronyms like that. It's kind of supposed to be clever, but it's spelled wrong. Mm-hmm. I don't know what other word, but surely there's some other word she could have come up with that has double D's.
Well, I feel like Dungeons and Dragons had to be part of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's some other acronym that has two D's in it.
Oh, another word. I see what you're saying. Yeah. They could have called it B.A.D.D. Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons, in essence.
There we go. That makes perfect sense. That's like when you're trying to reach your freaking word count on an essay.
My middle schoolers have been obsessed with playing Wordle lately. And they'll be procrastinating getting on their assignment by playing Wordle. I'm like, I can't even be mad about this. Just get on after you're done.
Yeah. Yeah. After you're done, work that brain. Mm-hmm. Do you Wordle?
No, I have in the past, but I never remember to do it.
Same.
Yeah. So I wanted to know what regulating Dungeons and Dragons was supposed to look like, because that's what they wanted. I'm unclear on what exactly they hoped to regulate. All I could find was that they wanted a warning label put on the box that warned parents about the dangers of the game.
Oh my gosh, like what is it called? Attorney. What am I trying to say? You know that thing that they put on,
like the parental advisory?
Packs.
The Attorney General
health thing. Yeah,
it's like in Europe how there's pictures of like lung cancer lungs on cigarette packs.
Yeah, they need to do that. But
Surgeon General.
Surgeon General.
Attorney General.
What did we say? Attorney General.
Close enough.
Yeah,
really.
I don't know the difference. So
they start putting like a kid in a witch hat on the Dungeon and Dragon game.
Yes, it's definitely a gateway to wearing witch hats.
I love it.
So where was I? Pulling also tried to sue the game company. She also lost that lawsuit. And then she turned to distributing materials like pamphlets that warned parents against or about the dangers of D&D. She claims that it encouraged Satan worship and suicide. These bad pamphlets described Dungeons and Dragons as, quote, and this is a long quote, here we go, a fantasy role-playing game which uses demonology, witchcraft, voodoo, murder, rape, blasphemy, suicide, assassination, insanity, sex perversion, homosexuality, prostitution, satanic-type rituals, gambling, barbarism, cannibalism, sadism, desecration, demon summoning, necromantics, divination, and other teachings. It's like, girl, what other teachings? You listed all the possible teachings.
I love that so much, because where my mind goes is that if that's what's going on in your kid's game, he's the freak.
Right.
He is the problem. The game is not that automatically making your son corrupt or your daughter or your child.
Yeah, he sought that out. But again, like for those unfamiliar, Dungeons and Dragons has none of these things.
Yeah, there are no rules
if they do, you can put them. I mean, you can put them in there, but that's not the game's fault.
Yes, that's not it at all.
That's like I can shove Monopoly pieces up my ass. That's not part of the game.
So
we don't have to warn
me.
Parents about that, you know? Like, it's fucking stupid.
Anything could happen. You don't have to be prepared for all things to happen.
Yeah. She did gain a small audience. She appeared for interviews not only on conservative Christian sources, but also on mainstream news outlets. I mean, this was the height of the satanic panic. Everyone was listening to her, and she made a career out of it. She got her private investigator's license. So here we go.
Yep. Okay, that checks out.
And she became a consultant for law enforcement on, like, I don't know exactly what. I assume like Satan related crimes, which, by the way, that is so rare if it happens ever. But yeah, it's a whole thing.
Satanists are like wholesome.
The Church of the Satanic Temple and Satanists, I believe, are two different things.
Oh.
But yeah, usually, like, it's not really a thing.
It's not what you think it is if you don't know.
She served as an expert witness on multiple gaming related cases, all of which were lost in court. In 1989, Pulling co-authored a book called The Devil's Web: Who is Stalking Your Children for Satan? The book discusses how satanic cults recruit children and young adults for violent rituals. Again, this doesn't happen. It also details how things like metal music, RPGs, and horror movies are inspiring the youth to become Satan worshippers and occultists. She became a full-on fanatic. Obviously, we know that these things weren't really happening. If they were, it was few and far between, and it was just the media making it seem like a problem when it wasn't. Just another reminder, this is a woman grief-stricken over the loss of her child. She's trying to process and make sense of this loss. I understand where she's coming from in that way, so I don't want to be too harsh on her, but Yeah, it's pretty
And
out
it's
there.
not like it was. I know you're focusing on her right now in this lesson, but she is a gear in a much bigger machine.
Yeah, she's a product of this culture. And when her son died, I'm sure that she wasn't the only one saying Dungeons and Dragons could have been to blame. It was probably someone else that put that in her head. And then it's like, okay, now I have a reason. This helps me make sense of something that's unexplainable. Like, it's so hard when a loved one dies by suicide because you're just left wondering why and what could you have done differently. And if it's Dungeons and Dragons that's at fault, then she doesn't have to wonder so much what she could have done.
That's something much easier probably to even cope with, because then you can create your bothered about Dungeons and Dragons and, you know, get your private investigator's license, rather than, you know, an overarching problem in America's lack of healthcare, including mental health care. And that's still a big issue today, as it was in the 70s, 80s. I mean, for the existence of this country.
Right. And she can feel like she's doing something about it.
Yes. Yeah. She has that control back. And such a horrific thing that family had to go through.
I read through some of the reviews of the book on Amazon, and through that, I gleaned that it sounds like one of her main arguments is that while RPGs don't cause mental illness, they can exacerbate it and encourage people to act out their delusions in dangerous ways. There's no data supporting this.
I feel like if anything, you're going to act it out in the RPG.
Right. You're going to act it out in a healthier way than if you go out in the world and try to do it. But that's a common trend for her, is just making claims with no research backing it up. In one interview, she told a reporter that 8% of Richmond, Virginia residents are Satanists. The reporter was like, that doesn't sound right. How did you get that number?
What state?
Richmond, Virginia.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very southern.
She said that the way she arrived at that number was because 4% of adults and 4% of teenagers are involved in Satanism. And the reporter was like, well, that's not how percentages work. That would mean that about 4% of the population is involved in Satanism. And she was like, well, that's just because
you don't know.
8% is a conservative estimate anyway. So
do your own research.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, even when people were poking obvious holes, she just stood by what she was saying. Her book is based in grief and fear, not in facts, and people educated on the topic recognize this. Player and designer Michael A. Stackpole wrote 2 publications, Game Hysteria and Truth and The Polling Report. Both documented the falsities and misconceptions in Patricia Polling's arguments and book. Stackpole pointed out that suicide rates have actually decreased since 1980, which seems to refute her claim that RPGs and Dungeons and Dragons increased instances of suicide. And the U.S. Center for Disease Control, the American Association of Suicidology, and Health and Welfare Canada backed this up, finding absolutely zero causal link between Dungeons and Dragons and suicide.
Yay, I am going to go 12 hours straight playing Sims.
Yeah, it's healthy.
It is healthy. I've never felt better. So it's either that or the Lexapro.
But still, conservative Americans and fundamentalist Christians clung to this belief that the game is evil. There are demons in this game, but they're classified as chaotic evil. So they're technically the bad guys, which you would think that the Christians would be on board with. It aligns.
Yeah, and any good thing that tells a story, including the Bible.
Yeah, there's demons in the Bible. Is the Bible telling me is the Bible making me worship demons? No.
Can you imagine they need to make an RPG game that's the Bible.
What would we
sounds
act
awful.
out? That sounds
I don't know.
terrible.
It'd be scary, actually.
Yeah, the
It'd
Bible
be really scary.
Some of the stories are terrifying.
Yeah, they are, and it needs to be actually, you know, one of the ones a translated Bible, the OG, not whitewashed and
right, not the children's Bible with the cute pictures of Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
Polling's propaganda.
Wow, that actually sounded like you rewinded.
Really?
Yeah.
Good. It did have an unintended effect of advertising the game. She and the game's creator, Gary Gygax, appeared on the show 60 Minutes to be interviewed about Dungeons and Dragons, kind of show both sides. The episode was called Is Dungeons and Dragons Evil? And everyone was watching 60 Minutes. Like, if you didn't know about the game, you knew about it after the 60 Minutes show came out. So, like, this actually probably increased the game's popularity. Eventually, Patricia did leave B.A.D.D in 1990, and without her, the organization kind of just went away. They did leave a lasting legacy that continues to demonize D&D. The game is regularly banned in prisons.
Whoa. Oh, that's really,
I know.
really unfortunate.
It sucks. Like, at that point, it's just trying to make prisoners' lives miserable. According to the Waupun Correctional Institution in Wisconsin, the game could, quote, foster an inmate's obsession with escaping from the real-life correctional environment, foster hostility, violence, and escape behavior.
AKA Dungeons and Dragons is too fun.
Yeah.
We can't let prisoners have fun.
AKA it gives you joy and lets you dissociate from your terrible reality for a little bit. And they want you to suffer. One inmate, Kevin T. Singer, actually sued the prison over not being allowed to play D&D.
Wow. That's dedication.
Unfortunately, he lost, despite no evidence that the game does what the prison claims it does, which is inspire violence and increase violent gang activity. It doesn't do that. So there's definitely still ongoing bias against D&D, but far less now than there used to be. And experts are now recognizing some of the positive effects that the game can have. Cognitive behavioral therapists are using D&D in mental health treatment, especially with child patients.
Oh.
There's an organization called the B.A.D.D group, which is an RPG-based therapy organization. And they highlight 3 key components that make RPGs therapeutic. Number 1, creating a therapeutic avatar that children can interact through. So, I mean, if you're having a hard time expressing your own emotions, you can express your character's emotions and be kind of a step back from it. Mm-hmm. Number 2, creating a space to test actions and consequences. And number 3, creating a full story and character arc. All of these things are present in D&D. So even in not a therapy environment, it can still have therapeutic effects. It's also a good tool to bring people out of their shells, foster creativity, and build community.
I don't see any downsides to D&D. There's so many ways
not a
that
single
you could
downside.
pull it into lessons for school, for therapy, for just having fun and connecting with friends.
And it's always something. Like, it was D&D in the 80s, and then it was video games. Like, when I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to have video games because my mom was convinced they were going to make me violent, which is like, it's crazy. Like, that doesn't make any sense, but it's the same type of fear-mongering. Like, the new thing is always scary. I worked at like an Xbox arcade in high school.
I didn't know that. Look at you, gamer girl.
I was like running that place. It was like Hayley, it was the craziest place ever. They put like the only people who worked there were like 15-year-olds, and the owner would go to New York City. She lived in New York City and had a business in my hometown, and she would like come check in like once a month. And other than that,
did you guys like
all the
open
15-year-olds
and close the shop?
We ran it. She did hire an adult manager eventually, but like it was pretty much children running the show.
Sounds like an episode in Rugrats.
It was like that. But pretty much like, or not pretty much, we had, or part of it was educating parents that video games aren't harmful. So we had all this like material that talks about how video games are actually really good for like building communication skills and spatial awareness and
You've
things
got
like that.
Yeah, because that's the whole business. So you can't have people out here thinking that it's going to make their kids' eyes roll into the back of their heads and start levitating.
Yeah. But it's just so funny. Like, I wonder when we raise our kids. I mean, now the boogeyman is social media, which it's slightly warranted for sure. I don't know. It's just
maybe we just had to cycle through all of the things to figure out what was actually
what the actual problem is.
Yeah.
Right. Society at large is starting to realize these benefits, and just that D&D is fun. It's become a lot more popular. According to a 2020 article, D&D had its best year ever in 2017 since being acquired by the Wizards of the Coast game publisher in 1997. That year, 86 million Americans tried D&D, and also, when D&D first started, it was definitely a boys' club, but now 40% of the players are women. So it's becoming a little more
equal.
Girls.
Girl club.
So it doesn't seem like the game is going anywhere despite Patricia pulling and bothered about Dungeons and Dragons best efforts.
I love that so much.
But that's my lesson on B.A.D.D.
Oh my God. It would have been so weird if we almost had a very similar lesson, because I thought about looking into Dungeons and Dragons this week. Yeah, that's why Tommy and I were talking about it.
Wow. Well, you guys saw the movie. I was wondering about that when I was doing my notes, because I think you put it in my head with the movie. Ooh. And but then I was halfway through my notes. I was like, dang, I wonder if Hayley is
We're
doing
in this now. No,
right.
I didn't. So
okay,
you're in luck.
Good. Well, anyway, you want to take a quick break?
Yeah, let's do it. We'll see you guys in a minute. Hey guys, we just wanted to make sure that you really had a good idea about all the extra content that is available for you on our Patreon. We work hard every single month to get it on the regular feed, but there's a lot over on Patreon as well.
There is. Sorry. I'm just going to hop right in here. I'm just so excited. I'm going to dive right in. We have so many things. Literally every single week, we continue recording for an extra about 15 minutes or so to make an extra credit episode where we each share a fun fact that we found out. Oftentimes, it's a mini lesson that is too short for a regular full-size lesson, so you get to hear that there. We also, like we said, are doing our cocktail hour. We do Zoom cocktail hours where we interact with you guys, hang out over some drinks every first Friday of the month.
And if that fun fact is maybe too short for a lesson, but it can be stretched into something else, maybe we use it for a little list bitch. That is where two bitchsticles read listicles. Kat and I teach a lesson in a list format. Those are a lot of fun. I feel like we get to maybe freestyle a little bit more. We still have notes.
It's a little more loosey-goosey.
Yes.
And what else is loosey-goosey is our trivia. We do a monthly trivia as well. Alec pulls trivia questions from old episodes
from the crypt.
We attempt to answer them, usually really poorly. There's a ton of content on Patreon. There's also a whole backlog of years worth of other shows that we've done. The content is really endless. So if you want more Night Classy and you want to support the show, patreon.com/nightclassy is the place to be.
Yes, ma'am. We'll see you there. Thank you for your support. Welcome. Welcome back, everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome in. Do you want your tarot read?
You've been saying thank you a lot, because when I edit it, I always hear you just say thank you. And it's always like, it feels like you're responding to something she didn't say.
What? I got made fun of at the bachelorette party that I went to in September for saying thank you every time. We were playing this game where we were playing charades basically. Yeah. And every time they guessed my thing right, I said thank you to my team, and they made hardcore fun of me. They're like, why are you being so polite?
It's not our fault. We were raised right.
Say welcome back.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
I was thanking her for welcoming me. I think it's funny. You don't have to think it's funny. I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
What do you know about New Hampshire?
That it's a state.
Yes.
And it reminds me of hamsters.
Nailed it. That's perfect. Today we're learning about hamsters. No,
really?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
I was so excited.
Yeah, way too excited. I'm sorry.
Now I'm going to hate it.
Now I feel so bad.
You've set the bar too high.
There are animals in this lesson,
okay, good.
So you
Thank
can
God.
look forward to that.
That would be the craziest segue if you teed her up like that. We're talking hamsters.
Hey, they eat their babies.
We just end the episode there. Like, that's all we need from that lesson. We don't even need to cover it. New Hampshire is a state. In fact, it is the live free or die state. No income tax, no sales tax, highest per capita gun ownership in the country.
Really?
Yeah. At least from the time that this source came from. Not sure what the date is on that, but at one point, if not currently, they had the highest per capita gun ownership in the country. They have been absolutely wilding out in New Hampshire for literal centuries. During the initial colonization of the New Hampshire area, settlers threw Abernethy law to the wind and just purchased land from John Hancock, who didn't really even have the right to sell that land, but he did. And then once these colonizers got there and set up camp, they refused to pay taxes. Royalist law enforcement came to collect the king's lumber. And in 1777, New Hampshire citizens asked to stop the taxes completely. And when that didn't happen, they just didn't pay them. So they've kind of had their middle finger to Uncle Sam for a while now. And the attitude hasn't really changed that much. It's become a haven of sorts for people who want to live free or die.
I had no idea.
Me
I always
either.
kind of tie New Hampshire into like Maine.
And
I just feel like it's a lot of like white hippies.
Yeah, I'm like lobster,
Yeah.
white rich people.
Just vibing on the beach.
I mean, it probably is that as well, but it has more variety than I once thought.
I guess so. Maybe New Hampshire is like Maine's like conservative uncle.
Totally.
They're related, but
Yeah.
he makes Thanksgiving miserable.
Oh, does he? Just you wait. John Bobyars is one of those people who initially wanted to explore New Hampshire for being able to live free or die. Initially, he pursued a career in software design before he decided to go an alternate route with his enthusiastic homesteader wife, Rosalie. So they set out to New Hampshire to build this new lives for themselves, and there's no place better than Grafton to support their libertarian wet dreams.
You know, homesteading is something I will never understand. I do like the idea of cosplaying as like a like cabin person for like a photo shoot.
For a photo shoot.
But living that way, that's like I've talked about on this pod before, but I'm obsessed with like fundy Christian influencers, and a lot of them have a boner for homesteading, and they will eat raw liver. I saw a picture of one of them eating a raw liver, and it looked like strawberry jelly on a spoon. They were just eating it plain.
Oh my gosh.
Like it's so wild. I cannot get enough of it. I'm fascinated.
Raw. Yeah, that's kind of the vibe
It's
here.
like just take an iron supplement.
Why would they do that? They don't know what's in it. The FDA
It's
approved it. They
iron.
can't take it. We don't know that.
Okay.
That's their point of view, not mine.
No, it's you, for the record. That's what Hayley
Well, I
thinks.
did
Hayley
just as
is eating raw liver right now.
I'm chopping off Cat's head. So John Bobyars and his wife Rosalie moved to Grafton, New Hampshire, and he makes himself really comfortable. He ends up leading Grafton's volunteer fire department and even runs unsuccessfully for governor on the Libertarian ticket. Everything took this wild turn in 2004 when John connected with a group of libertarian activists online. The online community dreamt of their own libertarian utopia. They were inspired by, is it Ayn Rand or
Ayn Rand?
Ayn Rand. I always mess that up. Ayn Rand and these series of micronations that happened in the Pacific and the Caribbean in the 70s and 80s. And they just wanted some land where they could do whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted, and just to live free.
What exactly do they want to do that they can't already do?
They, for one, they want to live in non-traditional housing.
Okay, you can do that.
They can do that. They just really don't want any restrictions on them from the government at all is what they want.
Like the only thing I can think of is that like I wouldn't want to pay taxes. But it's
Yeah.
like what else do you want to do that you're not allowed to do? Right?
Right.
Like
Totally.
You can do pretty much anything.
Well, as we know, a lot of people want to like own automatic weapons.
And you fucking can. You're allowed to
You
do that
can.
in this country. Why do you need to go?
fuck, you
Why do you
shouldn't
need
be-
your own country to
shouldn't
do
be
that?
able to.
No, you shouldn't, but you can. I just don't like what else do you want, libertarians?
They were not pleased, but they thought that Grafton looked like a perfect template for their dreams. So a couple of reasons why is because Grafton didn't have any zoning laws, so they could live in that non-traditional housing, not having to buy an actual house, deal with real estate agents, property taxes, all of that they didn't have to deal with. In Grafton, there's
How
also...
dare you not let me live in a hovel without plumbing in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, there's no law against
let
that.
me do that.
Let me do that
shit in a hole
right now. Let me shove Monopoly pieces up my ass.
No one can stop me, not even daddy government.
Grafton also had low levels of civic participation. The town had about 1,000 people living in it, and they had less than 800 registered voters, which percentage-wise is pretty high.
Yeah.
But they also had lots of land for sale. So they figured it wouldn't be too hard for libertarians to mold the town to what they wanted it to look like if they banded together and all moved to Grafton. And so what they called the Freetown Project began. Libertarian activists from all over the nation who met on the internet flocked to Grafton, New Hampshire. The Freetown Project began in the mid-2000s to serve as an ideal example of what libertarianism at its best can look like in practice.
Oh, I'm sure it was the best.
Oh, it's so good it made a night classy lesson. The first town meeting, so none of the citizens of Grafton knew that this was happening.
That's what was it? Oh my God, I'm blanking on the name. That Oregon town that got taken over by the cult that wore red. What are they called?
Ooh, I don't know.
The Roshnish. They did that. They went in Oregon and this cult took over the town, and they were like bussing in unhoused people to vote in their elections so that they could get like all their own people on the city council.
Yeah, they infiltrate the government.
Yeah.
That's what ends up happening here. The first town meeting did not go ideal for the libertarians. Grafton civilians saw them as outsiders. Obviously, they're kind of up in arms about all these weird people they've never seen before. In their 1,000-person town, I graduated with 500 people.
Yeah,
like
1,000 people is a high school.
It is easily a small high school. Yeah. And the townspeople were not into the libertarians' ideas of freedom. Now, this area was, I'd say it seemed pretty conservative. There were some people who empathized with the libertarians' ideas, but upon Googling the names of some of these libertarians, like the leaders of this movement, they found one who had actually published all of his ideas, Larry Pendeveris. He documented his intention to, quote, create a space honoring the freedom to traffic organs, the right to hold duels, and the God-given underappreciated right to organize so-called bum fights.
What?
I don't know. I don't even know what that means.
Okay, so this answers my question of what they wanted and what they weren't allowed to do.
They don't even know what they want. It's insane. Additionally, he stood for an individual's right to engage in consensual cannibalism.
Okay.
They did not like that. The citizens of Grafton.
Oh, you think?
They were scared.
Yeah. These people want to eat them.
They do, consensually.
And do like human dog fights. Are you kidding me?
And then they're going to traffic your organs, whatever they don't have room for in their stomachs. If they don't have room in their stomach for your stomach, they're going to traffic it.
Oh my God.
Eventually, Larry moved his mail order Filipina bride business from Grafton to Texas, but his libertarian friends remained, where they operated under vampire rules, in which an invitation once offered cannot be rescinded.
What?
They show up to town meetings
mean?
with like vampire fangs. Not actually.
Well,
but
they're already eating each other.
Yeah, they might as well just lean in fully to being vampires.
Why not?
It's all because of Dungeons and Dragons anyway.
Right, it corrupted the youth. This is what the liberals wanted.
Oh gosh. It's estimated that about 200 new residents pushed into Grafton, like I said, originally yielding 1,000 citizens. So the mostly male, mostly white colonists were on one side of the financial spectrum or another. They either had all of the money in the world and could just blow it like crazy, or they had nothing to their name.
Well, those are the bums that they're going to make fight.
It's an ecosystem here, okay? It's very complicated. They've thought this through.
Every piece is necessary, and we must save them from extinction. You have to be careful about the number of bum fights you have each month.
Well, no. We can't start regulating things.
Oh, right. I forgot.
So these the people who didn't have anything to their name didn't have anything to lose. So it created a variety of
I'm crying.
people.
What's happening?
Just wait. It's only gonna escalate from here. Like, I cannot believe this
Hayley,
is real.
I'm sweaty. I'm so scared of what's about to happen.
You should be. You should definitely be scared. And one of the other leaders, John Connell of Massachusetts, moved to Grafton because he needed to act on a message from God. God told him, Sky Daddy told him he needed to
traffic organs.
Before he could traffic his organs, he had to liquidate his savings so that he could move to Grafton. He purchased a historic Grafton Center meeting house and transformed it into his house / the Libertarian church, where he preached so that they could get a tax exemption, even though libertarians, through their eyes, think that the IRS is completely illegitimate and didn't have the power to tax them in the first place.
Okay.
They're just covering all their bases.
Yeah, I mean, you got to.
You have to. I mean, they've thought it all through.
They're so smart.
They're so smart. Adam France, a self-described anti-capitalist who established Grafton's very own tent city, marketed it well enough, described it as a planned community of survivalists.
Yeah, it's non-traditional
It's
housing.
true. There you go. It is. Richard, oh, this is good. Let me focus here. Richard Angel, aka Dick Angel, was another leader in the movement, famed for his anti-circumcision activism.
I mean, yeah. Okay.
With a name like that,
Yeah. Go off, Dick Angel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The libertarian colonists set up their homes in yurts, RVs, trailers, tents, domes, and shipping containers. I actually watched a TikTok after learning about this topic. I was like, I wonder if anyone's talking about this on TikTok. And there was some kid who was a kid when these people moved into Grafton. He was living there as a kid, and he remembers all the adults being like, what the fuck is going on?
Can you imagine?
No, I can't. I would be like, why here though? Like,
Right.
of all the places.
There are so many other places.
Yeah, but Grafton was the perfect template. Freetowners engaged in several years of government takeover, slowly but surely taking seats in the local government. And they slashed the already minuscule town budget of $1 million by 30%. And then they started to attack the town with litigation, causing them to spend even more of their budget on the court cases. Just random shit. The poor town, plus less tax money, everything started going downhill. There were potholes all over, and it could have been worse because they actually wanted to stop paying for road repairs completely. They wanted to declare Grafton a United Nations free zone and withdraw from the school district.
Oh.
But those initiatives failed as well. So that was a bright spot.
Okay.
Domestic dispute and violent crimes rose through the roof. Town workers, like people who worked for the government in the town, had to go without services like heat because they stopped paying for heating the buildings in New Hampshire. And services like police, fire, and the library were cut to the bone. Grafton got worse in pretty much every measurable factor. Recycling went down, crime rates went up, and not only did Grafton experience their first homicide ever, but it was a double homicide. So things were looking bleak. But don't worry, the Libertarians have a plan. The town had one police officer who for weeks at a time couldn't even use his cruiser because there was no money to make repairs that were necessary.
I thought you were going to say someone was living in it.
Probably.
Yeah.
He probably had to rent it out because they couldn't afford to pay him. And it would have been, maybe it could have worked if Libertarianism
wait, the city
worked.
budget is $30,000. Does that include?
No, it was $1 million.
Oh, so now it's like $700,000.
Yes.
And you can't
do
pay
shit.
any. Yeah, you
can't do shit with that. No private sector came through as planned because libertarianism, you're supposed to
Right.
DIY
Everyone pulls themselves up by their bootstraps. They get together. They fill potholes. Everyone donates their time. It's a utopia.
It's a utopia. This was a dystopia. No private sector came through to take care of these growing needs, and it became miserable for everyone, including people's chickens and pets. Chickens, sheep, household pets started to disappear at alarming rates.
No, they're not eating them, right?
One citizen was playing, trigger warning for sadness. One Grafton citizen was playing with her kittens on her lawn when before her eyes, a black bear ran out from the woods, started to attack, and ate 2 of the kittens.
What?
Before they knew it, bears were moving into Grafton in an aggressive fashion, not unlike the Libertarians.
What? Why?
There was so much trash building up in the streets because there were no garbage services.
Oh my God.
And this behavior from black bears is rare. They're usually pretty chill. They want to be left alone. But if they start to attack you, you run. Like with brown bears, you play dead. But this is really bizarre for black bears. And they got even more bold. The Grafton bears would start to laze around on people's porches and walk around in their yards in daylight. Why had they become so aggressive and so unafraid? And maybe it's because the Libertarians refused to not only enforce a certain type of garbage bin that would make it bear proof, but they wouldn't pay for it either.
Okay.
And of course there was all that trash building up in the streets. Maybe that's what attracted the bears. Maybe from eating all the trash, the bears were going crazy.
They were emboldened.
Absolutely. They were rewarded for going near the humans because there was so much trash and food scraps and all of that. Libertarians didn't want the government telling them how to dispose of their trash. They wanted to do it their own way.
We're feeding the bears. It's good for the environment. Stupid government.
I don't know. The kittens, though.
Bear snack.
Libertarians don't care about the kittens.
No.
They care about the bears.
They care about the garbage piles.
They care about the snakes. Live free or die.
Don't trade on me.
The new Grafton government, or lack thereof, was helpless in solving the bear problem. Some argued that they shouldn't do anything at all. That's not on them. This is the libertarian utopia.
Yeah, you all have guns. You do
Make it work. Yeah, especially because some townspeople had fed the bears, and it was their choice to welcome bears into their yard and home if they wanted to.
That's true. Call me a libertarian. But
Oh my gosh.
I'm just kidding.
It's a choice. Also, it was their right to feed the bears if they wanted to, said a woman who preferred to remain anonymous. It was her problem if she fed the bears donuts regularly. And then, or it wasn't her problem if she chose to feed the bears regularly and then the bears went into her neighbor's yard expecting the same treatment. That's not on her.
No, that's just the bears are stupid.
This is our land. Manifest destiny. I don't even know what the bears are doing here. Anyway, right?
Her license says live free with bears.
The right to bear arms.
The right to bear bears.
Some Graftonians shot the bears. Others continued to feed them. Some set booby traps.
Why are they still feeding them?
Because it's their right to feed them.
And they're cute. They're pretty cute.
They're probably pretty cute. There were so many of them, though, Kat. They were throwing firecrackers at them. Some people sprinkled cayenne pepper on their garbage as a deterrent.
This is unfair for the bears. Because it's true, some houses are feeding them donuts and some houses are shooting firecrackers at them and feeding them cayenne pepper.
Yep.
You never know what one you're going to get.
And why not risk it? If you're going to get a donut, if that's a possibility.
Does it have sprinkles on it?
Yeah.
Then it's worth it.
Oh, yeah.
Worth the
sprinkles
risk.
on it. I heard some of them were filled with what's called.
Ooh,
I don't
jelly.
like the jelly or
I like
custard,
the strawberry
but I imagine,
jelly.
Yeah, I bet a bear would too.
Probably.
It was a shit show. These bears are not typically aggressive towards humans, but they started to get aggressive. It all came to a head when a woman was attacked in her home. In her home.
How did it get
went
in?
into her home. I don't know. They're smart.
Just
She
opened
let
the door.
it in. It was her right.
Came down the chimney.
It was the first black bear attack in Grafton in over 100 years. And in the following years, there were two.
I was just imagining, she's like, I was doing consensual cannibalism in the basement and I didn't hear it come in.
They smelled the blood. They smelled the organs. In the following years, there had been two more brutal bear attacks. Thankfully, no one died, but they were severely injured. And the local government did nothing. About
It's not
it.
their job.
I guess not. They sure acted like
Their
it
job
wasn't.
is to let people traffic organs.
If they want
and
to
eat
traffic
each other.
organs and to organize bum fights,
That's
then
their right.
That's their
That's-
God-given right.
God said in the first paragraph of the Bible, let them have bum fights and gunfights.
Let them fight. Let them eat it too. Let them have organs. The Freetown Project started to decline. They were way too stressed to be blessed. They started. I thought that was funny.
I'm just imagining that the bum fights end in trafficking organs and
Yeah.
consensual cannibalism.
It sounds,
it's the
like one
outcome.
thing
It's
feeds
cause and
another.
effect.
Yeah. It's very disturbing.
The tail's wagging the dog here.
Like I said, it's an ecosystem. It all just meshes together really beautifully. This is
Cause and effect.
this is a perfect example of how libertarianism works.
Oh my
Right?
god.
Yeah, it's a utopia.
They started to turn on each other. Believe it or
They're
not.
fighting each other when the greater threat looms. It's the bears. The bears are on the other side of the ice wall, waiting while the people battle out their Game of Thrones.
They started criticizing those who were living free but in the wrong way. You're not supposed to be feeding them jelly filled. They like the custard filled donuts, you asshole. Which led to accusations of statism. Some continued to feed the bears while others built traps. Some just stayed inside. Others bought more guns, which after a gnarly bear attack led to a group of men shooting over a dozen bears in their den,
Jeez.
which is very illegal. But this didn't faze the bears.
Nothing is illegal, Hayley.
Nothing is illegal when
You don't subscribe to the government.
John Connell, who owned that libertarian meeting house, became financially ruined after a real estate venture of his failed. In the dead of New Hampshire winter, he could no longer afford to keep the heat on, and he died in a fire.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's suspected that he probably died by suicide.
Oh.
Franz and his survivalist community, the ones living in the tents, walled themselves off from the rest of the town. They said, we're not with you guys anymore. We're gonna be over here.
They put a line of duct tape across the town and said, if you step over it, you have cooties.
They used all the shell casings from all their ammo and shit to make a line. They had so much extra.
They just made a line of donuts.
Of cayenne pepper. The other founding fathers turned against John Barbera's after he didn't allow them to have an unsecured fire on a high wildfire risk afternoon. They're like, it's our God-given right to have a fucking bonfire on this extremely dry and windy night.
Well, that would help the bear problem, Hayley. If they had their
But it's their
fire.
right to live amongst bears and to do it the way they want to do it.
Well, if you want to live with bears, you can invite the bears into your home with donuts, while the rest of the bears who exercise their God-given right to not live in your house with donuts die in the forest fire.
Grafton just becomes a war zone. It's just everyone is doing their own thing their own way, and it's a free-for-all. That's what that sounds like.
How is this real?
That's what I'm saying. And there's a book on this, which now you see why I kind of wanted to read the book. I think I'll have to.
You should still read the book.
The Freetown Project in Grafton washed away as more influential libertarians called for an even greater mass movement of libertarian activists.
They're not saying we need to shut this down because it's a bad example of what we stand for.
No. These more influential libertarians said, we could do that better.
Oh, right.
And they called for what they called the Free State Project, where rather than just moving to one town, they called for libertarians to move to the state of New Hampshire. When Grafton townspeople ultimately reached out to the New Hampshire Fish and Game, which, can you imagine how embarrassed they were?
Oh my God. Can you imagine being that fish and game officer who shows up and they're immediately surrounded by bears?
Dude,
like,
they don't
fuck?
even show up.
I wouldn't.
They ask for help. They're like, we have a serious bear problem.
Yeah, that's above their pay grade.
Hardly bear it.
They're like, our job is to count salmon and remove roadkill.
Yeah, when they reached out for help, the state simply replied, they reminded them that killing bears is illegal without a license.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Don't forget.
Good luck. We'll be watching you. From 1998 to 2013, the bear population in that region doubled. And that is the tale of Grafton.
What happened?
The Freetown Project.
Is it still a town?
It just dissipated. It's still a town. People still live there. Very small. A lot of libertarians live in New Hampshire now.
Wow. Are there still a lot of bears?
Yes. Yes, there have to be a lot of bears. I wish I could give you a more in-depth update of today. I tried to find some more people talking about it on TikTok, but that's what I know.
Can we do a night classy field trip there?
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Someone needs to make a movie like Animal Farm. You know how it kind of outlines capitalism versus communism in like that like metaphoric way. It'd be so funny to do that with this story, like a comedy movie showing their idea. I mean,
they basically did
out.
it themselves.
Yeah.
I know. I'm saying like just making a movie of this to show like when you play those ideas out, how they fall apart would be so funny.
Yeah. I saw a TikTok that the caption was libertarians when you bring up the Freetown Project, and it was that old lady who's like, I don't think I know him. Because this is how it goes.
Yeah, this is what they wanted. We need government programs because humans are garbage.
Yeah, we need something to organize this shit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And we need taxes. We need structure.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I'm at a loss loss for words.
Yeah, it was a good one. I can't wait to record the TikTok for this one this week. So thank you all for listening to this wild story. I hope you had as much fun listening as we did riffing on it.
And if you enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Share this podcast with a friend. Follow us on social media. Tag us in your social media, in your stories. Very high likelihood we will repost that. And if you want to continue listening to us talk and continue listening to us share some more fun facts, you can head over to Patreon and listen to our extra credit segment for this week. And we will see you over there. Love you so much. 3, 2, 1. Class dismissed.